What's going on, Jared? I think you're muted.
How's it going?
Good man. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Been a very busy, productive day.
That's good to hear. All
Always.
right. I drove from Florida to Georgia
Oh, is that a little bit of a
to
drive?
attend this live.
How long of a drive was that?
It was a good 5.5 hours.
Oh, that's not that bad.
It's usually like 6.5, but you know, we like to drive pretty fast on the highway.
Dude, do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually, because I live in Boise, but back home, which is Reno area, so that's about 6 hours. So
Mhm.
I do
Where
that quite often.
you're close to Brendan Lyons is
Am
that
I?
area? Yeah, I believe so. He's one of my really good friends. He's also in sub two.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm actually not a sub two student,
Oh,
but
you're not in sub two. Okay,
mm,
cool.
I've been very much of
Well,
a
nonetheless, you
top.
still probably want to get to know him since he's close to you.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
he does a lot of wholesale deals and he does flips as well.
So
Um,
Brendan or Brandon?
Brendan. Brendan
What's his last name?
Lyons, Lyons. Okay. Well,
Oh,
today,
lives in Reno.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Like I said, that's where I grew up. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so today we're going to go over, I know we got some people on the actual Facebook Live. You guys are more than welcome to join the Zoom. Just go to the events in the Facebook group. Um, so we're a lot of people chose different topics or whatever. We're gonna kind of go over the luxury flips that we do. You know, $0 down, creative finance way, the strategy on that aspect of things. Um, it's not going to be any PowerPoint or anything like that. We're just going to kind of go over it and talk and see what everybody else is doing as well. So, you know, back when I started in real estate, you know, we started wholesaling, of course, but you know, I met a partner who was already doing regular flips. He didn't know how to raise money. He didn't know, you know, any creative ways of, you know, doing a deal, right? Everything was like cash, hard money, you know, use your own money and, you know, do a flip. And that's good. That's cool. You know, you can do one flip, maybe two flips at a time, depending on your budget and your financial, you know, situation. Um, and of course, me at the time, I grew up, you know, my background is my father is also an investor and he did tons of investments in properties and whatnot, and you know, as a GC as well. And so like I grew up in renovations, but I never actually did it myself, right? And so it's like I relied on a partner who had those expertise, those skills. That's everything. But what skills I had was I knew how to raise money, I knew how to structure deals creatively. And so he came to me and we were like, well, I want to get into luxury. I'm like, awesome. Right. So do I. But how are we going to do it with our limited funds? And how are we going to do it, um, you know, using private money, using hard money at the same time? Because there's a lot of issues involved. And I'll kind of get to them later on when you're like dealing with hard money lenders and you know, they don't like. But Jared, like for you, would you be interested in doing a flip if you could put $0 down and make $250,000 on it in 6 months to a year?
Yeah, I don't know who would turn that down.
Right. So here's the reality. A lot of people get like they're okay with doing the small flips. Okay. They're okay with doing these smaller deals, the 300,000, the $100,000 deals, making 20 to 60 grand on a flip. And that's cool. It takes the same amount of time as if you did a luxury property. Um, and I'd argue that the only difference is that the risk is a little bit higher, right? But doing the renovation is the same. Now you do need a little bit more precise attention to detail, and you know, materials cost a little bit more, right? But ultimately a 2,000 square foot home is a 2,000 square foot home. Right. In Florida, where we're at, the houses that are on the water are worth 2 million, $3 million, $4 million, and they're 1,400 square feet. And the same exact house that you would find, let's say in, let's say a city like Tampa or wherever you're at, would be, 300 to 500,000, and it's the same exact house. Like, what's the difference? And a lot of it has to do with, people don't have the money to get into it. And so this is why we're kind of like targeting how to structure deals creatively for fix and flips. And so number one, I've built calculators that will help you measure if you can get into a flip profitably using private money and hard money at the same time. And we've used them pretty much for every single one of our deals. Okay. We've tweaked them over the years to make sure that even a, let's say a sales representative or acquisition specialist can use them, right? It's easy to use. Now, those that attended the live probably already got it. They got that calculator, but they probably don't understand how to use it, right? So my first deal we brought to the table, so we bought it for like $880,000, and we had to bring $270,000 of gap funds to it. Okay, $270,000 when I've never done a flip before. I've never raised that kind of money before. I didn't know the paperwork involved with hard money loans, right? How title would operate, how we would even do a second lien position. I think Pace at the time was bringing out, certain documentation on JVs and promissory notes and like how to be secure for lenders at that specific time. So it was like, okay, it was still kind of new as far as like the conversations that were happening in the communities. And so why not try it on a luxury flip, right? And so that deal, ended up selling for $2 million, right? And so, like, of course, how much did we give our private money lender based on how much they funded that $270,000? And also all the details of what you should expect when, let's say, you do a deal, whether it's a luxury flip or not, how much percentage you should give to, let's say, a lender to make them comfortable to even lend on your deal, right? Because if you give them too little, they're not going to want to invest with you. If you bring them in as a partner, you don't have to worry about too much headache of a lender being on top of you, but now you're sharing a lot more profit. And then there's the option of just like interest only, and now they're on your ass all the time. When's this house going to sell? When's this house going to sell? Even though it's on market, right? And so like there's a lot of things to kind of like take into consideration. I want to clarify that luxury flips in general usually take a little bit longer than, let's say, a smaller house. So of course you're going to incur a little bit longer hold time. But at the end of the day, like it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I see Ray, you're on here. Welcome. So if you bought a house $300,000, what's up? And you plan on making, let's say, 10, 15% profit on that deal, how much does that look like? Like, is it really a significant amount? It's like $30,000 to $45,000. But you just spent 6 months doing that project, and you only made that kind of money. And you most likely you probably raised private money for that deal, but the dollar amount that you made in that short period of time, it's like somebody who wants to wholesale where you're at, Jared, where everything's in low prices. Your houses are what, 250 to 350, somewhere around that range in that area, I'm assuming.
Actually, our median's a little bit higher than that. It's probably around 450.
Okay, so you're actually closer
But
to Florida,
still,
450 to 600, 700 is where we're at over here. And so it's like, I'm just going to use an example of wholesale. If you're a virtual wholesaler, why would you flip in, let's say, Ohio with houses $100,000, or Macon, Georgia, same idea, they're $100,000 and less. Your assignment fee is going to be a lot smaller, right? Instead, go wholesale in the bigger cities, the bigger areas, and go make the 10, 15, $20,000, on a
Mhm.
wholesale fee. It's kind of the same idea, right? And so like when we wanted to get into flips, it was because I didn't want to waste my time making small money, right? And I didn't want to waste that much time, doing something I wasn't proud of. Okay. And what I mean by proud is like I can't put the stuff that I like in, let's say, a $300,000 house, because therefore you're over finishing a house that doesn't need that. Your comps can't support it, right? Like you're sure you're gonna sell for top dollar, but did you really gain any value? Not really. Um, and so that's why we kind of chose, the luxury flip space. um, let's dive into like rehab costs, because it is a kind of a major thing. If you're gonna flip a $300,000 to $600,000 house, how much do you think you would spend on, uh, let's say, rehabbing a full gut of a house that was like $300,000? Like, how much would you spend, like, cost per square foot in your area? You're muted.
Um, Probably try to keep it around 65.
Okay. So, and I mean, every area is a little bit different, right? So 65, 70, 55, everybody has different, cost per square foot for like full renovations, full guts, right? For a luxury property, you're probably talking about $100 to $150 a square foot, okay, to rehab a project. And so I get this all the time. Wholesalers like to send me deals of $3 million ARV properties, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you only need $100,000 to renovate this house." I'm like, "Cool." On your budget, they would use a $300,000 house, you know, and that's not including any external things like, a boat dock, a pool deck, so large landscaping, whatever else is added on that property. And so it's like, we try to be somewhere on the 100 to 120, but with all the additions, ends up being sometimes all the way up to $150 a square foot, because of all the extra things, right? It kind of adds up. Like your material alone, you're not going to go and buy, you know $1, $2, $3 a square foot, you know tiling or LVP or whatever you want to put in these smaller houses. You're going to put higher end tile, higher end LVP, like to be able to sustain the clientele that ends up buying the house, right? And same thing goes for the kitchen. Same thing goes for bathrooms. Like you want to update that. You want to do things at a higher scale that you wouldn't do in a $300,000 house, for hell, a $600,000 house. Still not enough, right? We have a differentiation that we use when it's a $2 million ARV and a $3 million ARV. Like we'll literally like bump it up tremendously. And so it's like it'll be on the same exact island. They're both on the water. One is a little bit smaller, right? And it's $2 million ARV, but the $3 million one will put even higher end, let's say faucets or shower systems, or let's say cabinets or whatever it may be, right? And there was no difference. There's literally no difference. But because the clientele at a $3 million level expects things that are a little bit different. I want to, before I start talking about private money and how you can find them and how you structure deals with that, it'd probably be easier if I just shared my screen, maybe showed you guys the kind of the calculator to kind of estimate some of these deals, because I'm sure it'll be really helpful for everybody. So let me see. Cool. This one already has a sample deal on it. Cool. And I'm just going to share my screen. All right. So don't mind the bottom. The bottom's for rentals, but let's look at the top part of this deal calculator. There's two sections. This is the sample one. This is the general fix and flip that you can kind of look at. Pretty much every single mentorship has the same kind of format. Every community has the same thing. We've incorporated a little bit extra stuff, which is more on the gap funding and private money lender breakdown, percentage of equity, whatever we want to give to lenders. And so this property right here is, 2,200 square feet. Rehab on this needs $420,000 just to renovate the property. They're asking probably about 1.5. Maybe we're going to buy it 1.3. I don't know what the salesperson was working on it. But, you can kind of see all the breakdowns in here of a typical fix and flip. Like literally this calculator is no different than any one of the free ones that are given out, right? At this point, it tells you what profit you're going to make. It tells you your return on that deal, tells you that percentage. And of course, it'll let you know if it's a deal, right? Which is cool. That's awesome. Like we can make $834,000 on this deal. Heck yeah. Right. But, that means I also have to bring to the table how much money. Right. And so like, notice how this says total PML needed on the right-hand side. And let's say the actual PML amount is 292. So let's say I went to a hard money lender and they only funded 85%. I have to pay 1.25% in points. They're going to tell me how much money I need to bring to the table for gap funds, right? Or my own money. Okay. And so I take that amount and I say, okay, well, if I, did that and I had my PML, my private money lender also fund any, let's say, holding costs for utilities, taxes, insurance, they pay all the closing costs, they do everything. There'll be some additional costs, of course. Let's say if I'm buying a deal from a wholesaler and there's an assignment fee, well, maybe your hard money lender will not fund the assignment fee, by the way. That's why we do double closes sometimes. Even then, though, some hard money lenders don't care about the double close. They still want to say, oh, well, you're buying this deal from a wholesaler. There's probably an assignment fee. If it's above, let's say 20 grand, I'll only fund up to 20 grand of the assignment. That means you need to bring the 30 grand to the table. For example, in this deal, it's $50,000. Okay. And so what you're going to want is to basically understand what your hard money lender is going to be able to fund. So you know what you need to bring to the table, right? And so what this calculator does is I already know based on my hard money lender, because I've dealt with them for so long, what their, typical funding is at the end for closing, like what I need to bring to the table. And so it kind of does the job. And if you need to change it to match your hard money lender, you can easily just change it any one of these numbers. But we have a little drop down here and we can offer, let's say, a lender who's bringing $292,000, like we can give them a high percentage of interest. Like if it was a smaller deal, do you think you can offer somebody 25% interest? No. You would literally lose on that flip. Okay. Let's say even if it was a 12%, right? Technically on smaller deals, you could still lose, right? But anyhow, we have the option of choosing different things. If we want to give our private money lender interest only, we could do that. If we want to give our private money lenders interest plus equity, we could do that. If we want to just give them profit share, which means of this $834,000, I can give them a third or a half split. Depending on how much money I need, I would differentiate and say what is fair, right? And so a project like this that I'm making $834,000, I don't want to give out that much money if they're only funding $292,000, right? And so I might want to only give them a third if, let's say, they're a partner. At the same time, I'm like, okay, well, they're funding 292, they will make 278. They're almost making 100% return. Why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't they do this deal? Okay. And so again, it doesn't really work too much on the smaller deals. You'll lose the basically all the profit that you're going to make, because notice here at the bottom, private profit after private money lending actually updates, right? And so it takes this number, takes whatever number that's right here, and gives you another output. So I'm okay with making $500,000 on a deal if I can find a lender and give them basically 100% return on their money. Then let's say however long this project is, and so like a lot of people don't understand that you can do stuff like this. Now I'm going to kind of deep dive into maybe something a little bit more technical, because some people like to raise money through interest. And interest means you got to pay them on a monthly basis. Well, if you're trying to do this deal $0 out of pocket, if you got to pay, let's say even at 12%, a certain amount monthly, well, then I'd rather just ask for more money that covers the interest amount. So notice how this adds it together. And so like, I'd rather ask for more money to cover the interest payments as well. And so technically I don't feel the hit, right, of a large interest payment every single month. And this way it'll allow me to do more deals, right? I can do more deals and not really worry about, cash flow issues, right? And I don't have to worry about the project not being able to fund itself, because they just funded everything. My hard money lender pays me in advance draws, not on the back end, by the way, which we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. And you get a really good interest rate, and you get a low amount in points, right? And so like, if your credit's bad, so what? You can still do it. Okay. There are ways. It just means you got to find a sponsor, right? And find someone to partner and give them, a certain amount, right? JV with them. And you basically have to kind of put them on your operating agreement temporarily just to kind of do it. But like, there are workarounds around that if your credit is shit or you just don't want to use your credit, period. Like, there are workarounds. But yeah, if you're going to raise money and do interest, try to wrap the interest payments. Like, wrap the interest payments and ask for more money so that you can comfortably make those interest payments over that course of time, so that you never default on your lender. Okay. Again, this only depends on if your deal can handle it. If you can't handle it, don't do it. Right. Make sure it still says it's a deal down here. Okay. But that's enough on the calculator. That is there for you guys to use. It's also right now in the group. So if you go to the group in the featured section, I know it says for those that attended the live event, but it'll be up there for, let's say, another, a couple days until I decide removing it, for those who want to still get access to it. So if you go to the group, the built real estate group, on the top, you'll see the featured, and then you will see, I think you got to scroll right, like maybe 3 or 4 posts, and you'll see it. But so that's one thing. You can calculate a deal. You can evaluate a deal using private money, which means you can lock up more deals. Okay. But now, how do you actually structure this deal with, let's say, a hard money lender, or, just locking up the deal in general? Like, a lot of people are going to be hesitant to blocking up a deal this big. EMDs are going to be large, right? Even at 1% of, let's say, a deal at $1 million is $10,000. Not a lot of people have that kind of money to fund deals. And so, easiest solution, you want to be able to use Gators for that. Okay. And so one of the features we're adding into the CRM is going to be a service button. Okay. And so let's say you have a deal, whether it's a wholesale or a flip or whatever, we'll have an option in there, and it'll be launched in the next 2 weeks for those that are using the CRM, where you can fill out a form and it'll automatically go to someone that I recommend, and I've used them. They're good at what they do. They're basically like a broker, right? They have a bunch of people that they manage that have a lot of money, and they can potentially fund your deal. Okay. And so like Gator, like EMD needed, that's not a problem. If you need to do a double close, that's not a problem. If you, let's say, need for a long term, let's say you're doing a BRRRR, I don't recommend it right now, but let's say you were, and using private money to buy it and then refinance it later on, there is that option as well. And so anyways, we're pretty much bringing out a lot more features to offer everybody in the community for that aspect of things. So hard money lender. Okay. You can use a lot of hard money lenders. Every single one of them has probably different terms. There are some good ones out there that offer you premium, or we call the platinum package, right? Which means in order to actually really get approved with them, you need like 5 flips. You need really good credit scores. Those flips have to be in, let's say, if you plan on doing luxury, maybe in the luxury space. Maybe they need to be in the specific state that you plan on buying that property. like there's a lot of requirements for, you know, getting that platinum package. Some of the advantages though of that is, you know, instead of doing reimbursements, so typical person that flips that uses their own money typically uses a hard money lender that they pay the gap funding, okay, and not only that, now they have to make monthly payments to that hard money lender. And so like interest can be on the back end. Okay, you can structure that, but also at the same time, they can't get their first payment from the hard money lender until, let's say, they completed, I don't know, 5% of the work, let's say, 10% of the work, whatever it may be, whatever your expectations that you decided and discussed with that hard money lender. And so like that means you need to bring another additional X amount of dollars. Let's just use say 40 grand. You need to bring an additional 40 grand to manage the project and start the project going, right? Before you get your first draw from the hard money lender. And so it's like, what if you just found a better hard money lender that did advanced draws? It means they gave you that first payment before you even started the project. And then whereas you do that portion of work, they give you the next one in advance. And they give you the next one in advance. And you keep going, which means you don't have to keep relying on your money, right? And then you don't have to rely on private money for that either. If let's say you want to get started on that aspect of things without using your own money, right? And so like finding a good hard money lender is also really, really good. Now I have a really good hard money lender that I use here in Florida. I'm not sure if he's nationwide. I know he does a lot of states, but if anybody does want his contact information, just reach out to him. So that's one thing. If you're using a hard money lender and plan on doing private money lending funding, which means they're going to get in second lien position, typically your hard money lender is not going to like that. They don't want to see that there's a second lien position on their loan, right, on the property. And so how do you go around that? Does anybody have any solutions of how they would go? Jared, if you were doing a flip right now and just thinking creatively, how would you overcome that obstacle?
That's a good question. I'll be honest. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't have an answer for that because flips hasn't been my like main focus. So I really haven't put the time into like, okay, like, how would I get around this, right? Or what obstacles am I going to run into based on these situations?
So the reason why I'm picking on you, number one, because there's only a few of us in here, but also at the same time, creative financing is opening your mind, right? It's really just anything is possible as long as all parties agree to something,
Right.
right? And if your mind doesn't think creatively and think outside of the box, you're going to do basic deals, right? And just because a hard money lender told me I can't put someone in a second lien position doesn't mean I still can't do it, right? And here's another thing. Maybe you'll run into the issue when you're at title and you're trying to close and your private money lender wants to transfer funds directly to escrow, right? To keep themselves protected, right? But your hard money lender doesn't like that and they want to see the money coming from you. And so like that's another issue and another obstacle that happens when you're dealing with, let's say, title companies and hard money lenders. And so in the beginning, what we did is we did something really risky. We had the private money lender trust us and send us the money, and then we sent the money to title to kind of overcome that situation. I would never recommend doing that ever again to, you know, for anybody else out there lending money. But like that was a solution that was in a gray zone that would potentially harm a private money lender. Luckily, they trusted us enough to be able to do something like that. But like, because you can't track that. Like if let's say he funded $270,000 of gap funds to my direct account, technically I don't have to ever return it. There's no agreements. It's not held in escrow. It's not whatever. Like there are potential risks. And so we want to make sure our paperwork's correct first off. And second off, we want to be safe in sending money to an escrow account.
I probably have your answer. I mean, maybe it's not the right answer, but is there a way to like use like a servicing company for something like that?
No.
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 Okay.
So what we did on that aspect of things is we contacted title and we said we need to record the first and close. and then open up a second transaction and close the second lien position right after it. So simultaneously we'll close on it. It's not a double close. Like it's literally A and B to C, but like it's not a double close, and people might think, oh, you might need transactional funding for that. No, you don't. Right? It's the same transaction. It's just they open up 2 escrow accounts for it. Again, like if you're just going through like a normal, we got a mortgage on your house that you bought, for example, you would just open up 1 escrow account and it'll be done, right? When wholesalers do double closes, they'll open up 2 complete separate transactions, 2 separate escrow accounts, and that causes they need transactional funding. Let's say the house is worth 200,000, they need the full 200,000 to purchase it for the A to B transaction, and then they of course get the end buyer to fund the 220, let's say, for to make a 20K wholesale. Right. And so it's like that's double closing. In this scenario, we didn't have to double close. All we did was talk to the title person and we're like, can we do this? I know you guys probably don't typically do something like this, but that was the solution for us. And then of course there was title companies that didn't agree to something like that. So you just have to find the right title company that doesn't. And so we have a really good title company now, thankfully. Her name is Yasmin from Veterans Title, and she's like the killer. Like literally, she'll do any creative deal possible for you. And so, again, this is just here in Florida. My experience, my, how I've kind of gone through things. If you're in a different state, you want to find your specific title company that helps you out. You want to find, let's say, a recommended hard money lender that'll help you out. And you want to make sure that all your paperwork and all your docs are correct. And let's say someone can actually do a creative deal, period. But nothing is impossible. So like the hard money lender brought up that objection, right? They're like, oh no, you're bringing, gap funds from a private money lender. Like in their agreement, it says that you can't have, a second lien on it. In their agreement, like in their hard money loan, it's like you can't do it, but you do it anyway. It's kind of like subject to, right? You do it until, let's say, the bank calls it due, and then you just switch things around as far as paperwork wise go, and you're good to go, and you never have to worry about it again. It's a lot of different things. And like here's one thing I do want to bring this up, because a lot of people think subject to or sub to is the solution for every single property. It is not. We call it sub to make it easier for everybody to understand who are not in sub to. But let's say you have an FHA or a VA loan, you wouldn't do a sub 2. Okay. You would do like a contract for deed or a land contract or some sort of lease option. It's called, the paperwork's different, right? And so again, this is opening your mind a bit to being creative. We call it something, but the paperwork's completely different. Okay. And that's why a lot of people that are on, that watch, let's say, YouTube, right? And they watch Pace or they watch whoever that does creative finance deals, and they're like, they mention something and they try to now do it to their sellers or their clients, and they start mentioning they can do this strategy when in reality you're not saying the right things, right? You're not saying the right things. And so it's like, know your paperwork, know all the what you can and can't do with, let's say, a civic transaction. But anyhow, going back to flips. So you have a hard money lender. Appreciate it, Ray. Welcome to the team. So you have a hard money lender. You got the funding, let's say, 85% of your $800,000 purchase, whatever. You still need to bring the gap funds. You need to negotiate now with private money lenders to fund that deal. But how do you structure that deal? We'll use the calculator. It'll give you different options, right? And it'll tell you what percentage maximum you can give. Offer them less than that and see where it goes. Make posts, build relationships ahead of time before you start doing deals. But let's say in that previous scenario, I could have gave them, a third of my deal. Giving them $280,000 and they only funded $290,000, like that's almost 100% return, and I still would have been fine, right? I still would have made $500,000 on that deal. Do you think anybody would say no to that kind of, let's say, percentage return? 100%? No one. And so most people in the community are doing deals and they're like, oh, I need funds for this fix and flip that's that's $300,000, and I need, let's say, 60K for closing, and I'll offer you 15, 20, 25%, 30%, some people, return on your money. Okay. So, and people are taking those deals all day long. Like those deals are, people are funding them all day long. But imagine you didn't give them, let's say, a third. Would you not have so many more lenders swarming you? Because you offered so much more as a return. And so what happens is you start getting a bunch of lenders that come to you and say, I want to do this deal. And it's really, at that point now, it's first come, first serve. Whoever funds the deal the fastest signs documents and puts money in escrow. That's who I trust, right? And then you'll get a bunch of other lenders that'll be like, yeah, I'm interested in doing the deal, but they don't take action, right? Or you'll find all those lenders that are brokers. They have other people that have money. A lot of the gators are like that. And they'll try to broker the deal and they take too long, and they lost out on like the greatest deal ever, right? And so you have the ability to basically control and gather as many private money lenders as you want on your deals. And then the good news is you can keep and record all those lenders so that when you have future deals, because you can do more deals now, you don't have to use your own money. You can go find the next deal. You can have your partner manage that deal and go find the next deal, right? And keep doing that until you get to a point where you're forced to hire people, right? Or maybe you're okay with doing only 5 deals, at a time, or 10 deals a year, or whatever your capacity is, But having that ability to get lenders that are used to, let's say, 10, 15, 20, 30% returns to come to you because you offer them so much more gives you the, basically the ability to, promote a deal and get instant replies right away. Okay. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't really pay attention to, that you could do creative deals with, fix and flips. A lot of people just try to do those cash and use their own money. And I think they're missing out a lot on those kind of deals. I kind of do want to push this point because everybody that's doing fix and flips right now, I'm sorry that you're only making 30 to 60 grand on a flip when you could be making more because you chose to make, let's say, the 5K wholesale fee instead of making the 30K wholesale fee because you chose a different, location. Like maybe you're just in the wrong area, and maybe you need to move. Maybe you need to go to a different area where you can actually make more money in real estate. But that's the reality of things. When I first started out, if I went down the route of only making 5K assignment fees and 30K flips, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, right? Especially with having partners. Half that money is given away to your partner or partners and JV people and lenders. If you kept doing that, you pretty much just have a high paying job, right? And, if you're stuck only doing, let's say, 2 flips a year, 3 flips a year, even at, let's say, 60 grand, at 3 flips, that's what, 180 grand. And you split it with a partner, you only made 90 grand. Like you still didn't even hit 6 figures, and you still got to pay taxes on that. You weren't able to buy any property either for the long-term growth. And so I think, I really think that you need to be making more money on your deals. And what better way to do it than using creative finance for your fix and flips? So I'm going to leave it to you guys to ask any questions. I'm also going to check the Facebook Live and see if anybody has any questions as well. Let's see. Effie. Okay, we got some comments on there. I need to figure out how we can get this. Get these comments out of here. How do I do that? Okay. Couldn't find the calculator in the resources of the Built Real Estate Group. Go all the way to the top. So it's not in the training center of the CRM itself unless you bought the annual plan. Right now it's only in the featured section. So at the top of the group, you'll see featured and you'll see like 5 or 6 posts in there. One says, for those of you that showed up to the event, and it has a built picture. There's a Google Drive link. What's up, Tashin? What's up, Lewis? John says, can you add me to that list for a broker of a PML? John, just message me and I'll try to get you connected with one of my guys. Steve, you're a private money partner. Awesome. So like just through this live, we don't even have that many people on here, and we got people who are either A, brokers, or they are private money partners. And so like if you brought them a deal, if guys they're listening to the live right now, if you guys had a deal that gave you that kind of return, would you not invest in it? So I would be trying to communicate with the people who messaged and chatted in the live. There's 2 people in there that can probably help with private money right there. If you guys want to do a deal, and I'm sure they'll help you with wholesale deals, or let's say long-term holds, or fix and flips, or whatever it may be. It's like if they're a lender, maybe they have a certain criteria, but build a relationship with them, right? Become familiar with what they have and what as far as like how much could they, let's say, fund a deal, also as well as like what type of deals they like to fund. And so for those of you guys in the chat, just reach out to me and I'll connect you with Daniel, who will be he'll add you guys to the service so that you guys have the ability of, you know, funding any deals as well. So John says 100%. So there you go. Let's see. Anybody have any questions? How do we make this? Oh, Effie, is opening up 2 escrow accounts normal? I mean, it's not normal. It's a creative way of doing things. Like, again, like we're trying to find workarounds that work to do creative deals. Like, think about it like a Morby method deal. If you do a Morby method, you're essentially like getting more funds than you need, and then the sellers kickbacking you money. It's like, how do you do that? It's like you need to open up multiple transactions, or at least multiple escrow accounts, to be able to handle something. Those deals aren't normal, right? Those deals are like creative to the max. It's like you just trying to figure out a solution or a workaround to whatever problem that comes your way. And in real estate, it's your job just to put out problems, put out fires, right? Like that's what we do every single day. You can find an awesome deal, but you're still going to have problems along the way, whether it's the paperwork, whether it's the finding of the buyer, whether that's you doing the project yourself. There's always going to be problems. And so to the best of your ability, you just need to figure out solutions to every single one of those problems. All right, guys, we don't have any more questions, I am going to end this tonight. I did have a long 6-hour drive. I'll try to make the next one a little bit longer. But also at the same time, if you guys have any questions at all, make sure to reach out in the group. We'll try to assist you with anything. And then as well, you can message me as well, and I'll try to get to you as soon as possible.
All right,
Jared, Ray, David, you guys have any questions?
I just wanted to stop in and say thanks for putting this on. I'm excited to see more going forward and dive into that CRM a little bit more, because I know it's going to help elevate my business in other areas that I'm working on as well. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. And we appreciate for having you here on the Build team as well. You're welcome, John. I appreciate you. Thank you, Lou. Neffy. All right, you're welcome, Ray. I appreciate you. Make sure you guys share the value with everybody else so before they miss out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.